says it's preparing.
Got it. Okay, so I'm going to call to order the Montessori Peaks Academy Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, November 15th at 6:32 p.m. The first thing we'll do is roll call and declaration of quorum.
Okay, so present this evening, Irene Mihawk, Becky Springstead, Liz Flittick, Adam Livingston.
Here.
Terry Hughes.
Here.
And Rebecca Martinez Dalton.
Here.
So we do have a quorum, and we'll take note of the non-member attendees, Jen and Gary as well.
I'm sorry, Becky. I can't hear you.
I'm going to switch to a different device.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, she is the only one I couldn't hear either.
Did
You
she
have a
say?
quorum, Irene?
Okay, so we're good. Okay. I'm going to go over the mission statement for Montessori Peaks Academy. It is the mission of Montessori Peaks Academy to achieve high standards of individual excellence by guiding the whole student through an exceptional learning experience based on the educational philosophy of Maria Montessori. Next, community comments. I personally did not receive any community comments. Did anybody else?
No.
Okay. So we'll continue. My numbering was off, but next thing is principal's report / update. So
Okay.
Gary Stephen is here with us tonight. I'm going to let him take the floor.
Am I on? Okay, good. Well, first of all, I want you to know the principles at the very important principles at Montessori, such as mindfulness, courtesy, care, and kindness, are there. Now, the PAL, me, Principal Pal, I'm on board and not a whole lot to report with a day and a half, but I'm pleased. They're very welcoming from everyone, parents included. I'm just kind of reacquainting myself to the landscape, kind of keep that in perspective with some of the issues of the past, as well as meeting with a number of teachers. And Beth and I are working together on establishing a leadership team, which we should have kind of at least a framework, a line chart, if you want to call it, in terms of so everyone knows who to do what to get where and so on and so forth. So I'm pleased to be back to help. So that's about it.
Sounds
By the
good.
way, I want you to see my shirt here, you know.
I like it.
I think I got that from Amy and Veronica when I left a while back.
Thank you, Gary, so much for being willing to do this at this time. So I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. You're welcome.
I think you speak for everybody on the board that we're happy to have you back. A familiar face, not a new principal to the school, and somebody to take the reins and just keep moving forward.
That's the goal. Thank you.
So we're just going to keep moving along. The next thing on the agenda is the FAMLI issue. I know that we did talk about this as a board previously in the summer, but we got from legal counsel that we need to make sure that we let the staff be noticed appropriately, and then open it up for any discussion comments again, and then take a final vote from the board as to what direction we're going to go in. So I wanted to allow comments from staff. I personally did not get any comments. Jen was the other person on the notice to staff. I don't know if you received comments or anybody else on the board from staff.
I had one staff member just question what it was, and at first she didn't understand. She thought it was more part of FMLA. And then I gave her the link and she looked into it and okay. So that was it though.
Ashley, did you hear anything from any of the other staff members as a staff rep about this particular item? No?
No, I did not.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the issue? I don't know, Jen, if you want to talk a little bit about it, if you understand it more than I do. It's up to you. If anybody has any questions from the board.
It's not that I don't understand it necessarily. It's more of how we have to offer it, even if we opt out. And my role then would be to manage it and do the contributions, because it's such a ridiculously small amount of money. It's like 0.0045% of your salary. And you know how we do payroll now, the para, Jeffco automatically does the para. So this is just something we would have to manage ourselves. So I guess the main thing is the board needs to decide whether we're opting in or opting out, and then individuals need to decide if they want to, opt in or opt out.
I
Jen, is,
was just going to say, my understanding is that if we opt out, we can opt in the future. This isn't like we're stuck with opting out.
Yeah, and if we opt out, an individual can still opt in.
that was my question, Jen, is if an individual opts in, is it easier for everyone to opt in administratively for us to say everyone opts in automatically? Is that administratively easier for you than if an individual employee decides they want to opt in, and then you have to kind of do it on a employee by employee basis?
To be honest, I have no idea because I don't know what the reporting looks like.
Okay.
So I imagine it's something I'd have to do with the district and PeopleSoft, because it's going to be like a tax thing and it's going to have to show up on pay stubs and stuff like that.
And if we were to do it, is it automatic? Like, is it part of the payroll? If we opt in, does it just automatically get done? Payroll just does it. Nothing else for you to do.
I'm assuming so.
Okay.
But it definitely has to go through payroll because it's a tax deduction.
Right. Are we alerting the staff that they're going to start seeing this new deduction?
We haven't decided if we're doing it or not.
I think so.
I believe it's deducted no matter what. It's an option on whether to waiver out is whether you participate in the well. So I have friends in low places, the Department of Labor. At this point, they don't even know how they're going to waiver people out. There's no structure to that yet. So what's happening, the example I was given is Amazon has an equal, if not better, program than the Family Leave Act, which would give them the ability to opt out. But because they haven't put a system in place to literally opt out, the Department of Labor hasn't, you automatically have to start making these payments from day one. And then they'll either credit or refund your money, this being the state of Colorado, once they've figured out how to waiver out.
But we're not talking about that, right, Jen? This is something different than the FMLA.
This is the Family Leave Act.
This is not FMLA. This is
MLI, right?
FAMLI. So it's something separate that, as you know, I can tell you that Jefferson County as a district opted out. That's what they did. But individually as a charter school, we have to make the vote ourselves. And then Jen would have something she has to submit for opting out as a school. So I will tell you, when we talked about it back in the summer, we decided as a board to opt out at that time. But then I learned that we did not notice the staff appropriately and needed to revisit the issue.
So
go ahead.
So what I remember from the conversation was that we weren't sure how this would impact the budget. If we opted in as a school, what our contribution would have to be, what the processing would have to be, what the reporting requirements would have to be, and that we knew we could always opt in. And so the discussion around that was, let's wait until January when we start meeting as a finance committee, where we could have a little bit more information about, maybe the district and other districts will have a little bit more information about what that reporting looks like and what the impact might be on our budget. And so for this year to opt out and reconsider it as a discussion point with the finance committee in January as one of the topics of conversation. I think that's just to refresh. I think that's where we were, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
You're correct.
Okay.
Because it's so new and people don't really know exactly what it's going to look like. We decided to go on the side of caution, knowing that we can change the decision in the future pretty easily. Once we opt in, it's harder to change and opt out.
It sounded like it's a 3-year commitment. If we opt in, we're stuck for 3 years, can't get out.
No.
I guess, what do you know, Irit, why Jeffco opted out? Like, what were the, I guess I'm trying to figure out what are the reasons not to do it? That's okay if you don't
recall
yeah,
at the
that's
moment.
okay.
I know I sent that letter to you guys for the July meeting, but
Mhm.
I'd have to pull it up. I just know that we were given that information at that time.
And just to make sure I understand it, this is coming out of the employee's paycheck. This is not money we have to come up with. It's the employees that's coming out of their paycheck.
I think it's a matching situation, but I got to go back and pull that letter up, but I think it's a matching situation if we join. If we don't join and they want to individually opt in, they can, it's just like deducting something out of their check. But if we join in, we've got to match it. And that's where the concern was, is how is it going to impact our budget? That's
the other thing to think about opting in later is how does it affect when they can take it? Because I know right now, if you start in January, you don't start getting benefits until 2024. So I'm not sure what, and it didn't show anything. The stuff that I read, it didn't say anything, but if we opt in later, what the delay is between that. Maybe it is only until the following year, but there may be some with that. But from an economic standpoint, what I could see, if we have a $2.4 million salary budget, that's about $11,000 a year for us to match if the amount. So
that would be if everybody, all the
Yes.
staff members participated. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, if it for the total amount of salaries we have, that's what it would be. But obviously that could change different ways. So.
And to Justin's point, they might not even know how they're going to implement this. You know, they might have just
It's
started.
really new.
Yeah, and really not have an idea. And as a charter school, maybe we have resources with Jeffco that can help us, but I fear that this would just be on Jen to figure out.
Yep.
And so my take would be, I would prefer to discuss it thoroughly during the finance committee and find out more and budget it into our budget. If that's the case, to put it in there, then kind of just jump in and have a 3-year commitment without understanding what that might really look like.
The other thing about budgeting for the next period is that maybe that's something that we could look at budgeting in both sides of it, where we could give the teachers a perk by budgeting both sides of it. So.
Just so I understand, do we have some kind of disability in place today? I'm assuming through our current benefits package. So our staff do have something if they needed for a medical leave, correct? Or would this be their first opportunity at having short-term disability?
I was able to purchase it through our benefits when I onboarded with Jeffco, but I don't think many have that deduction in their.
It sounds like it's an individual choice when they sign in for their benefits, and probably when they yearly re-up the benefits to either do it or not do it. So it's a personal choice.
Jen, you're frozen. Not sure if you can hear us.
If you just turn off the video, the bandwidth might be there for the voice piece.
I just noticed on the little handout that we got, looks like there's kind of 3 options. There's a middle option that says all public employers may decline their participation as employers, but still make payroll deductions for those employees who want to participate in the system. And then there's a total opt-out where employees have to do it all themselves. Any employees who wish to participate will have to make their own payments into family, and we have nothing to do with it. So I guess what I'm I'm thinking maybe we're kind of centering on that middle option where if employees want to participate, we could still make payroll deductions for them. Or are we going to, because that seems like that mitigates the issue that Brittany brought up about impact on our budget. So it could be optional for employees if they want to. And I guess I'm wondering if that's kind of a good middle ground for now.
And the one other consideration with that is if we do that, we take on the responsibility and the risk of not knowing how to account for that properly. And it seems a little bit like the Wild West with how they're implementing that program. And I'm concerned with putting that on Jen's shoulders and maybe it's just something new and maybe it's something that's not complicated, but it sounds to me like we're not going to have really the support of Jeffco because they're not doing it. And so how are we going to create a system where we do that and we properly account for that? Each individual's person, we have to keep track of what they want out each month. And it seems like that might be doable, but another system we have to put in place. And I just think maybe it's just not the right time in the middle of the year right now to do that. And if we can do it with planning and purpose over the next year to have it in place for next year, that seems to reduce the risk that there might be errors and somebody might be saying, I asked you to take this much out of my check and now I realize you didn't do it right or something like that.
Do we know why Jeffco opted out overall from the program? Is it just that it's so new?
I think so.
I have no idea about
I mean, I
that.
didn't listen to that board meeting where they made that decision, so. So I guess we have to decide kind of which way we're gonna go.
And I think it's interesting that, you know, everybody was notified and nobody seemed to have when I say everybody, I mean all the staff were notified.
Yes, I had it sent out to all staff last week on Monday in the morning.
Yeah, and besides the one person that had some questions for Jen, nobody stated a preference or a strong preference or any preference for any one direction. So I just note that as well.
It may be something, if we wait a little bit, we can do a better job of communicating thoroughly so that everybody understands they have some responsibility and we have some responsibility. So that might be a prudent thing to do right now.
It might be a good thing for a board member to present at a staff meeting in the near future. Just a little Q&A might go further than email back and forth.
Arit?
Yeah.
I have a Mike Webb asking to join. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, that's Jen Webb.
That's Jen Webb.
Oh, it's her husband's computer probably.
Okay. So I admitted her a second ago and it didn't. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it was just bandwidth issues and it's popping her off, so.
Thanks.
So do we have enough? Do we think we need more discussion or Reed, what do you think?
I feel comfortable that we've discussed it. I'm not able to make any kind of motion. So, I mean, I'm in agreement that this is new and the finance committee should have a chance to really look at how it has an impact before we would go in. That's where I sit with at this point in time.
Well, I'll move that we wait until what's a good period of time next year, then wait till the finance committee meetings to make a decision on this.
We have to make a decision to opt out or in
Oh,
at this time,
that's right.
because we have to
Okay.
file something with the state. That's why I put it on the
Okay.
agenda at this point.
Okay, I make a motion to opt out of it currently.
And
Second,
maybe the motion is to opt out fully. Emily, to your point, that there's kind of like a, just to be, that we're all, make sure that we're clear on, that we're all in agreement for opting out completely for now.
So Terry, let me restate the motion and then if you can just confirm I got the gist of it. So Terry Hughes motions to opt out fully from the FAMLI until the Finance Committee has an opportunity to review in early January 2023.
Sounds like a good thing to say.
Okay. And I will second. Okay, a quick roll call. And can you hear me okay now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Arit Mihak,
Yes.
Becky Springstead, yes. Emily Splittick,
I'm kind of torn on this because I support family leave and I feel like it's really important. But I think we need to wait. So I will vote yes.
Adam Livingston,
Yes.
Justin Sasso,
Yes.
Ashley Fainer,
yes.
Brittany Horseman,
Yes.
Terry Hughes,
Yes.
and Rebecca Martinez Dalton.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion passes.
Thank you. So moving on to the enrollment priority resolution. So what I put before you guys is something that came to me through the district. They sent this to all the charter schools and asked that we take a look at it and consider adopting this for 1 year only, knowing that 16 elementary schools in Jeffco are closing. And asking, my understanding of the resolution is that those kids would go to the top of the lottery list for that open enrollment. So with our lottery, the kids who have siblings in the building, I think, go to the top. And then, you know, the kids who have staff members that work in the building, in district. And so for those in district open lottery spots, the kids from the district from schools that have closed would get to rise to the top of that portion of the list. That is what the district is asking us to look at and see if we're open to adopting that to help those kids find the best home that they can, knowing that their schools have closed.
Is this priority for for spots that are not currently filled by current, I mean,
Yes.
re-enrolling students, right?
Yes.
This would be our open spots.
Yes, because the re-enrolling students, like if we have a kindergartner and they say yes to staying at our school for first grade, they get their spot for first grade. And then below that, you know, let's say they had a twin sibling who happened to not be at MPA, that sibling would get, you know, a spot before the open spots. So this would be for those open spots for kids coming in from outside of the school. They would be at the top of that list, is my understanding of it.
Is there a set number of those priority spots that they're asking for, or is it an open-ended amount of spots?
It's an open-ended amount of spots, but I mean, I don't know how many we have in each grade. And that's dependent year by year, how many kids stay in the school. They asked that we let the schools know before the enrollment numbers get filled in. So every year parents get an email that says, you know, please go fill out this. I don't know if it's through Jeffco or what it is. I can't remember, but you know, you say I'm remaining at this school and they get their spot.
What's the downside for us? I mean, originally Jeffco was asking us not to accept students.
So this is for next year.
Yeah, no, I get it. But this year they were saying, please don't accept students because we want to keep them in the school until the school is closed. Now they ask us to give them priority. How is it a downside for us? We're trying to increase enrollment. Maybe I'm not just right now thinking about it. Maybe I'm not seeing a downside.
So the one and only downside that has been brought to my attention is the idea that kids that have no Montessori background would jump to the top of that priority list. And are they coming to our school because they're interested in Montessori for the right reasons? Or is it just, this is the closest school? And so really understanding that we are a Montessori school, that we follow that philosophy within our classrooms. And that's how things are taught, rather than just, this is the closest elementary school to us. But at the same time, the open enrollment spots that we have would go to other kids who have not been in our school before. So to me, I really, don't necessarily see a downside.
And I
The
don't think
question,
we
don't we
can,
kind of screen? Go ahead, Brittany.
no, Justin, go ahead. I think you might have had the same.
Well, I'm just wondering, and screen's the wrong term, but we kind of interview and make sure that kids are a good fit. They understand, the parents understand what Montessori is, et cetera, et cetera. So if we were not to give one of these students priority because it wasn't a good fit, is there a penalty or something? How do we get dinged if we don't give them priority?
We would be adopting it as it was drafted for us, and filling in the school name.
My thing is that we don't screen anyway. The
Nope.
enrollment, we can't say you don't have Montessori experience, so you're not coming. I mean, we can't do that anyway right now. We can have a conversation with the families and say, here's our philosophy, here's our mission, values, and whatever. And is this a right fit for your family? And they can make the decision about what's the right fit for them. But we already can't do that anyway. So I don't see that this resolution is that I see it as a very good point in practical application, but it's something that we don't do anyway right now. So I don't see it really impacting this decision on the chart, on the resolution. But
Could MPA host like an open house for the schools in the vicinity that are closing to explain what Montessori is and how it compares to the traditional model versus the Montessori model, and what they would be moving into if they chose MPA?
That's something that I was trying to coordinate, Rebecca, for the marketing committee to try to assist with. I was going to bring it up tonight as part of this discussion because we had been asked to kind of wait until the final vote occurred with Jefferson County this last week before we reached out to those schools. But with the board's blessing, I would like to start those discussions to see how we can reach those families and help them understand what our school offers so that they can make an informed decision. Especially Colorado being as close as it is to our school.
And Compass has, at least a while ago, I don't know if they still do it, but they have a requirement that they won't accept your registration until you do a tour. You have to do a tour and see what they're about so that when you do apply, you're applying with that information that they feel explains who they are and what the commitments of both the parents and the students would be. So I think that, Becky, I would agree with efforts to do that. And I know there's been that in the past, like last year during enrollment time, there were open houses. There was a lot of teachers dedicated their time to showing up for those open houses to demonstrate to parents and show the classrooms and those sorts of things. So I know there has been efforts in the past for that.
I don't see a negative to this with the way that we already do things. I don't, the kids that are already in the school stay in their priority, get to stay, the siblings get to come in, kids of teachers get to come in. I don't see it, personally don't see a negative in us adopting this. It's for 1 year only. And I think it would help families who are concerned of what's going to happen with their kids, knowing that schools have adopted this. Unless I'm cutting somebody off, then just to move it along, I would move that we approve and adopt the charter board resolution proposed by the district regarding student enrollment priority. Never mind, that's it.
I would second. All right, going through roll call in the same order. Irene Mihawk.
Yes.
Becky Springstead. Yes. Emily Splittick.
Yes.
Adam Livingston. Adam, are you able to hear me?
Oh, it doesn't look like he's.
I don't think
see
he's
him.
on.
I think he left.
He had to
Must
drop
have dropped
off.
off.
Okay.
Okay.
Justin Sasso,
Yes.
Ashley Fainer,
Yes.
Brittany Horseman,
Yes.
Terry Hughes,
Yes.
and Rebecca Martinez Dalton.
Yes.
So that motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, so next thing is architecture DCS North Building discussion. Terry, if you see somebody named John trying to join, please let him in. I don't know how quickly he'll be able to jump on because I originally told him 7:30. So with regards to the North Building, we had a meeting with DCS a couple weeks ago. I sent out some documents to everybody since then. I got a guaranteed maximum price back from DCS this afternoon. I forwarded it to everybody as soon as I got it. Not sure if everybody's had a chance to look at it. If anybody has questions, I feel like we're going to overlap a little bit with the finance committee in terms of understanding the banks of money that we have to spend on the construction and things for the North Building. I know previously there was a concern about the size of the water, the pipe that we have for that, and needing to get that upgraded after we get students in the building. That has to be upgraded due to the fire sprinkler issue. And so that is not going to be on the table as something we have to get done after students are in the building, because we have to do it in order to be to code with the sprinklers from the fire department. And so that had a price increase with the construction in order to code.
Was that the $72,000 item? It had jumped from like 18 to 72.
I think so.
So it was just an inlet of water that was too small, because I thought it was also an outlet of water that was too small.
So the outlet has to do with the number of, and I can't remember, they have a term for it, but it's like faucets and toilets and whatnot. It's all the outlet things. And only if we increase that number significantly do we need to change that out pipe situation. The quote that they gave me was like 600 people in the building if we got like more classrooms and more things built into it with the current pipe situation that's within the architecture stuff that they gave us. So I don't foresee us increasing that number to the extent that it would make a difference.
Got it. Okay.
It was significant.
Yeah. And I guess I had always thought it was, and probably just assumed that it was the outlet of sewer, but it was truly the incoming water that was the issue.
I know I tried to get to the bottom of it because I wasn't in those conversations originally, and ended up having a conversation with Valerie as well as John. Aubrey was part of that email conversation as well. And that was the information that I got back. So basically that it's not a concern at this point due to the fire sprinkler system.
What that means is that like a future, there's no deferred maintenance, or deferred maintenance, that's not the right word, but that's a big chunk of what a future improvement would need if we grew, that we would not be deferring payment, that we would be doing it in the beginning, and it's included in the budget. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes me feel a lot better, because I did think it was something that here very soon, which is why we've always talked about minimal numbers in the building that we would have to address. But now I feel like we no longer have a capacity concern on our building, which is big going into the initial build, knowing that we're not going to have any restraint there.
Should we ever get the grant money to do so, I was also told there is room to build up more upstairs classrooms above that big open room that we have. So the program has space to expand significantly if the money came in for the construction to do so. So this really getting the 3 classrooms upstairs, getting the downstairs ready for homeschool really is just to get kids in the building, and has room to expand to 3 full middle school size classrooms. And the homeschool, I've talked with Miss Melissa, and she is hopeful that the homeschool can expand. She wants to work with the marketing committee, and feels that with the new space, it can expand to a point where it is bringing in revenue.
And that was, she gave us a whole presentation several months ago. It's more than a hope. I mean, there's specific reasons why they're limited with the facility that they're in right now and how many days they offer and all those kind of things. Some of those will be taken care of and allow for that expansion in a more organic way.
Yes.
That she had put together. So there's a plan, you know, on their part to expand as soon as they can get into that room.
And if the process for the construction goes through middle school committee, and I know that's later tonight, but the information sort of overlaps. She is working with the middle school committee. And even though we'd be starting really small for middle school, we'll be working with that program to do some work together for the older kids. Because you have to remember the homeschool program right now is built to go through 8th grade. So she would offer some programming, whether it's art stuff or PE ideas or whatnot, to work with those kiddos and help the teacher that would be starting that program, because we're starting small with minimal staff. So it feels good to have that overlap, sort of almost like having an extra staff member and giving more opportunities for the homeschool kids and more opportunities for kids that would be in the middle school.
So one question I had from this email, from the email that we have from Valerie that you forwarded, where there's some bottom line numbers, right? The total project budget, and then what we have left of a 5B funds bucket, and then we have a bucket left from the refinance and the cash we got from the refinance that isn't 5B funds. So the 1.13 million, that's the total project budget, which includes all the soft costs and whatever. Does that account for funds we've already paid to date for HCM and DCS, or not HCM, sorry, DCS, that we've been paying them to kind of project manage? We've signed a couple contracts with them. Is that incorporated in that, or are these going forward costs going forward only?
May I ask you to repeat that for John, because he just joined us. Thank you so much for coming on, John. I really appreciate it.
Hey, John.
Hey, guys.
So this is John from DCS, and he's updated about everything going on with our project. So
yeah, I hope so. I hope I am. There's a lot to digest and to relay, but I'll give it my best shot.
Okay, so Brittany, I'll just let you say that again.
Yeah. And I hope it's a very simple question. Is Valerie sent over an email with kind of the total project budget, which is about 1.13 million.
Right.
And then is that a budget going forward? Because I know that includes soft costs, or does that already incorporate funds we've already spent, like for DCS or the contracts we signed to get the drawings and the construction drawings and stuff? Are those incorporated, or are those already spent and this is just moving forward?
Yeah, so every element that was committed to for this phase of the work is included in that budget. So it's our full contract value, and the design fees and all those elements.
So we've paid some of that total money already.
Right, that's correct.
Okay.
But the F5B funds that we have left over, so that 1.13, some of that's already been paid. So it's, and I don't mean, I'm not trying to look at this in a rosy light, but I'm just trying to, some of that 1.13 has already been paid. So what we would owe into the future is actually less than 1.13.
Yeah, it's not intended to demonstrate cash flow
Right.
much as it is to demonstrate the full allocations and expected purchase commitments.
But the 5B funds that we have, that's what we have to date to spend. So,
Yep, that's my understanding. So there's a gap between the 5B and the total.
right. But, well, we have another bucket of the refinance money that we have, but what I'm saying is the money, it's not quite apples to apples. If we're looking at what buckets of money do we have to spend yet moving forward, and we're looking at the total project budget, because it's not meant to look at cash flow. It's not comparing apples to apples. So,
yeah.
So when we look at what we have left in the monies that we can spend, we have to recognize Jen has already paid out some bills. And so when we look at the total money that we have left, it doesn't need to cover that whole 1.1 is what we're trying to let people know. And
That's right. And
can't say that exact amount, but she's already paid. I don't know it off the top of my head.
We can help with that analysis and coordinate that with Jen and get that reported back to you all if that would be helpful.
I think just overall, if we add up the 5B funds we have left and the refinance money we have together, it comes to very close to what the total project budget is projected to be. And we know that we've already paid some of that total project. So if you wanted to just very high level it, we have enough money to cover the project cost, the total project costs.
Do people have any other questions from the documents that you've seen or were sent out? I know it was this afternoon for John while he's with us. Any areas that you're confused about? Anything that's listed? I clarified for people the idea of the water pipe situation and how we had to expand it for the fire code, and that it wasn't an issue of water coming back out of the building from, sinks, toilets and all that stuff. We would have to have, I think the number was 18 more fixtures added to end up being in trouble, but we weren't looking at adding that many. So.
Sure.
I guess
there's been a lot of discussions of scope, proposed scope, evolution of scope. So I can understand how it would be a little confusing as to what might be in this versus not included in this scope.
There's a gap between getting the 1.1 million 1,138,581 and the 914,581. I'm confused as to, we don't know what has been paid and how much would be remaining. Seems like there should be a balance sheet somewhere where we know.
Jen, do you have not an exact, but an approximate that you remember we've already paid towards the project?
I do not, because some of the project was paid for before I even got there. So I could, if I had a list of all the expenditures, I could go through and see what's been paid. Like, is all the architecture stuff on there?
Yeah, it's on here.
Because a lot of that's been paid.
And we did have, it wouldn't be current.
DCS. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jen.
DCS sends me like, and I don't get them that often because there hasn't been much stuff done recently, but they're the ones that tell me what's okay to pay. So there should be some tracking of it.
So just to be clear, there is tracking of it. I'm not prepared tonight to share that because it's not immediately available to me. But tomorrow we can get the summary of what's been paid through each category and approved for expenditure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just not comfortable moving forward, not knowing for certain what that final number looks like and how that comes out of the 5B funds. And
Well, I think, Justin, I think maybe I'm So it's crediting, whatever they're going to tell us is going to credit to our positive, not to our negative. If that means it's monies we've already paid. So the total project cost is going to go down from what
Right.
then go up. And so it's only going to benefit us. So right now, if we had not paid a single dollar towards the project, if we still had to go forward paying 1.13 and we hadn't paid any bills towards that, we have the 2 buckets of money we have are sufficient to cover that. We know we're going to have more because that total project is going to go down. So to
Okay,
me,
so our reserves still beat out the total cost of the, okay.
yeah,
That's all I wanted to know. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
And
Exactly.
my understanding is we've paid more. I mean, I know that it's more than 40,000 that's already been paid out because of the architecture costs. I can't give an exact number, but I think there's a significant amount that has been paid. So
yeah, and we know what we signed the contract with forget who they are to do the
Venture.
drawings. Yeah,
Yeah, Venture.
So that was like 25 or something. I mean, we can kind of add up the contracts we signed. We know that those have been paid. So, but yeah, I agree with Justin that it'd be really good to have not only the project budget that John and Valerie have worked on, but our running to date. So maybe we can work, Jen, maybe we can work together. So every meeting we have coming up, we don't just have the budget cost, we have a running to date where we're at, almost like a P&L that we say, here's our total budget, here's what we spent to date. And then we can keep really good tabs on that.
So what's left, here's how much we'll
Yeah.
owe and here's how much is left in the account. Yep.
Yeah, and normally
Sounds good.
that the budget track spreadsheet that we have would have had the detail, but we recently have gone to a different financial management system, and I don't have that report pulled to share with you. We were unfortunately only prepared to talk about the budget and the allocations, not the expenditures. We'll be able to have that in subsequent months going forward once you all approve the budget, and we can provide those updates. That'll happen monthly, as has been the course kind of throughout the project.
My larger concern is the things that were identified last month, which are the things that aren't in our plan, like the roof that we're going to have to address in the coming years, and to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible with allocating funds to cover those expenses, those deferred maintenance on the building that are not part of this scope of work. And that's why I was asking about the apples to apples, to see where we had, what we might have left over to allocate towards some of those expenses that are coming up.
Because Brittany, that would come out of the second budget that we're talking about, the second bucket of funds, the non-5B funds. If we exceed or we use everything we have in 5B, what is the balance? I guess I'm missing that number. I think it's here somewhere, but what's the balance that we would have as cushion in the other fund?
I don't think there is any. I think you add those 2 buckets of money together and that's going to cover the 1.13. But we know we've spent some money already. We know we paid some of that. So we're going to have some cushion. I just don't know what the dollar is because I don't have that. We don't have that information tonight. So,
but I guess my confusion is, so we know what is our second bucket total?
Okay, hold on, because that came in a separate email, I think, from a REIT. I just don't know what email. Was it last meeting that we had this issue and we said we had too many questions? Yeah, it was last month, right? Where we had too many questions and we needed to get some more. So that was October, the October board packet. Where is it? UIP enrollment. What is the SPF? What is that? Is that the document? Let's see. I know it came out in some document and I just didn't have it. Nope, that's the standardized test scores. Does anybody else have it? I know it came out.
I'm looking.
I don't know if it was in the body of an email or if it was in an attachment.
I have an email dated October 27th that says Zion Bank Project Fund. Is that it?
See, I don't think so.
The $2 amounts that were given to the board during the meeting on 10/18, 5B, it says 899,513.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Zion Bank Project Fund is 163,
Yes.
586.
163, 586 plus 889, whatever. Let's see. What is that? You said October 27th, you got that?
Yeah, there was an email from Arit.
Yeah. I'm
Those
trying
are
to,
accurate.
October 27th.
here we go. Yep, okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
account availability from previous board meeting, because those are the numbers Jen gave us.
So what I'm trying to understand is, let's say, for example, a new hole opens in the roof, or one of our HVAC units goes out on our main building, or something unforeseen happens. Is that 163 the kind of emergency fund or building fund that we have built over the last several years to address, or is that truly something separate and we have a budget for unforeseen damage to a school?
So that money, that is money we got when we refinanced, is because of our lower interest rate and because of our, I don't know the right term about changing the bonds. The refinancing process netted us a bunch of money because we went through a private bank and we didn't have to keep an escrow fund like we did with the public bonds. And so we got a bunch of money back. So that is that bucket. It's not
Okay.
5B funds. It just came to us from the refinance. And so when you add those two together, you get $1,053,099, and the budget is 1.13. So the money we currently have on hand is just shy of the total project cost, even though we know we've already paid some of those costs down. I think it's probably going to be pretty even, but I don't know the exact number of what we've already spent.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's coming out like there is no cushion. There's a cushion in the budget, but there's no cushion for future deferred maintenance. That's going to have to be budgeted from our reserve, or we're going to have to start putting money away as we develop budgets each year going forward. We're going to have to start putting money away for that, just like we would to the main building.
But this Zion Project Fund is not the reserves, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, I guess that was what I
Oh,
was trying to differentiate. I'm
sorry.
sorry, Brittany. I'm
No,
mixing our buckets, but
Just
so we're-
doing some rough math, I think, based on those amounts, there's a difference. Assuming we paid nothing, which obviously is not true, it's like $75,000 difference. Assuming that we, between what we have, the funds we have, and the budget, assuming we
that
paid
we're
nothing.
negative, Emily, we're negative.
That we're
75?
negative, yeah,
Okay. And then
Yeah, but
hopefully we've paid at least
hopefully-
75.
or close to it.
Close to it.
I don't know if we paid that much, but
John, my question for you was something that we had talked about a little bit last month. So our big concern was, did the subcontractors get enough time in the building, get a chance to really look at some of the things like the subfloor and some of the things that we had concerns with, to come up with really strong estimates? Or do we feel like we're going to have other things, kind of like the fire, where they've only kind of walked through, they haven't really dug in, and so we may be very low in an area?
I think our belief is that the due diligence required for the contractors to give us responsible numbers has been exercised. The one exception was that fire sprinkler, and the contractor didn't understand the scope, the subcontractor. And between us, the architect, and the prime contractor, that got resolved. I think it went from an $18,000 to $75,000. There were no other red flags within the context of scope or proposed cost that gave us concern that there was a disconnect. That doesn't mean that there may not be something that comes up from unforeseen, buried conditions or things like that. But I think we've done a responsible effort to have those reconciled and triangulated.
guess one of my questions is, if we do come up short, do we have extra funds beyond that money in the Zion's account that we can pull from, or what does that situation look like?
We do, we have our reserves that are very healthy.
That would come from the reserves. Okay.
We would, I mean, even this project, I didn't look at the most recent numbers, but I think the cushion that's built into the budget is not very large. I
Yeah.
think it's very, but then the scope of the project is not very large either. So my concern is, I mean, John and Valerie have done a great job. The last project they did on the main building, they came in under budget at the end of the day. So I have confidence that John and Valerie know the public school system and how important it is to not go over budget. Even in the midst of COVID and all the craziness, they came in under budget. So I'm thankful for that. My concern is more the deferred maintenance of the building. Like Becky's, if the roof, we got to put a new roof on, we got to put a new roof on. And that's why we put money away in the reserves every year, except for the 2 years with COVID. But, we've been, in the last 6 years, except for the COVID years, we've never taken a dime out of reserves for anything. We just keep contributing to the reserves. So there is funds there. There
Okay.
are funds there, sorry.
When
Okay.
we say healthy, do we have a rough idea? I was trying to find it in our budget. I don't know that it's listed as a line item. Maybe it is.
I know it's over $1 million, but some of that money we have to keep because of our loan. We have to keep a ratio. So it's not like all of that is liquidated that we can use. But I don't have the number. I don't have the exact number of how much is free for us to use without any impact on our debt cash ratio. And John, if you remember, I know when Jack was on the board, I know it's not even valid anymore, but what do you remember, like a round number of what they thought? We got some estimates to replace the roof. Do you remember that? That was like in the 200,000 range, right?
That seems about right to me. It's going to be in the $20 to $22 a square foot range to do a replacement. I might be able to go back and look at I think the numbers you're referring to, Brittany, came from the building condition assessment.
Oh, maybe, which was a while ago.
done as part of that pre-purchase, and that
Yeah.
would have been in like 19, and that
Yeah.
probably had somewhere around $16 a square foot as an estimate.
For like a 10,000 square foot building, it's just under 10,000 square
Yeah.
feet, right? So,
Yeah.
so that puts us at 250,000, let's say, if we want to up it a little bit, if we're
Yep.
now going with the higher. So if we're looking at, that's one of the deferred maintenance.
Yeah, and I think it's more likely. I mean, you guys will have to rely on your facilities staff certainly, but it's less likely that you're going to have an issue where you have to, in an emergency scenario, replace the whole roof. You might end up having to do a large patch area, that could be $30,000, $40,000, buy some time, get it on the horizon. But, it would be our recommendation to plan, sometime in the next couple of years to try to do it proactively so that you don't end up with damage or loss of use based on an event versus it being organized.
I didn't see a lot of items coming up in the near future, either on the current building assessment that I shared with the board that was completed last year or the year before. I don't know if others had a chance to look at that, but most of the items that were evaluated on our current building were saying that they still had, 10 years of life. So though there may be some items that would come soon on the new building, it didn't seem like there was a lot of things that were about to come on the current building unless others felt differently.
Except for the HVAC and the stucco, like some not big ticket items, not like $200,000 items. things that we can and have been in the past budgeting for in our operating budget every year when we pass a budget. And then if we don't end up having to do it, we just stock it in the reserves.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
I think I found that number, 1.484.
What number are you looking at?
This is from the Jeffco paperwork. It's, or the Jeffco budget versus actuals, and it's, now I see.
Are you
That's why I
talking
have-
about the reserves? Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about, Jen? Okay, we can't see the whole screen. It's so large that we can't see what the column is. So yeah, 1.4.
It's this one, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Prior year carry forward, this was last year, and then that's what's going is 1.44.
That sounds right, with an acknowledgement that 1.4 is not available to us.
Yeah,
I think we have to keep 30%. I don't know that. I'm not sure with, I'd have to go back and I can't remember the percentage of the funds, the amount we have to keep in there. I seem to remember about 900,000 of that was available to us.
That helps, Jen, as we talk about what we have for reserve. Thank you.
I mean, it shows some buffer room in case we do have to move on something in urgent fashion. And that's just the sigh of relief I'm looking for.
I don't thank you, John, for being here, and also pass on my thanks to Valerie and Reed, of course, for making it happen, but putting the that email together, answering all those questions that we had, that really helped clarify stuff that we had questions we had from the last meeting that I think make this decision a little bit more certain or on more solid ground.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on.
I can hang on if you would like, in anticipation of developing some more questions, or you guys can just let us know tomorrow and we can follow up. I'll talk with Val about where she has current cash flow saved, and we can get that forwarded and get it reconciled with Jen's numbers, and then make that report back to you all.
Okay. One last question I have is, this is a GMP. How long is it good for? If this expires at the end of the week, we need to make a decision. If it expires at the end of the night, I don't know how this works these days. So I thought it would.
Well, it's all fairly tenuous, and I hate to say it all kind of hangs by a thread, but it sort of does. It only takes one contractor to mess up the work, so it would be incumbent on us to get a decision, get them released. The sooner we give them the go, then the less likely it is we're going to lose a sub or have another cost increase that jumps up on us.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So unless somebody else has something right now, I mean, I'll let you log off. And
I'll sign off. Y'all have a good evening.
thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks.
So Reed, did you need a vote on this tonight to move it forward?
I mean, the reality is that they cannot take that next step until we have that vote. And right now we're sitting with a north building that we've had for several years that we have not made a decision on green light go for construction or, total stop, and we need to sell. And I think that the school just holding the building and not making a decision either way is not in the school's best interest. I feel like we need to make a decision. If we don't move forward with construction, then the middle school committee, should probably dissolve at this point. If we're a go forward, the middle school committee is ready to have the middle school listed on enrollment that opens up in December. We are a go. So that's kind of where we stand right now. We're sort of, do we veer right or do we veer left? And I feel like it's time to choose. That's where I sit with it.
So what would a motion sound like on this? A motion to approve the proposed. Sorry, I'm looking for it. I've lost
Okay.
it. So this is the, would we be approving the DCS construction management proposal with the current contract value at $920,381? Or am I looking at the wrong document?
I think we're looking at, and DCS is just our project manager. I think I think the way I understand it, we would be approving the total project budget proposed to us by DCS in the amount of $1,138,581. No, $1,138,581. That I think that's all we have to approve, right, Arit?
That's my understanding as well, with the notion that we would be approving for them to utilize the 5B funds that Jefferson County holds for us. And then we would tap into the project money as needed to cover anything that's left.
Reed, there was a separate draft letter. I think that's kind of what you were referring to. Do we have to approve that letter separately, or can that be part of this approval? There's a letter that says this letter is to confirm that MPA Board of Directors approves HPM Contracting as the contractor, and it includes authorizing the business manager to expend all 5B funds.
Yeah, so that would be a part of this. And she's asking for all the board members to sign it. She can send it through DocuSign to everybody, knowing that we have a break coming up, and that allows that money to be pulled.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if that had to be something we separately approve, or if that's all kind of in this.
No, it's all within, if we
Within
choose
this.
to do this, that is something that we need to do as a board.
Got it.
In order to open that up for them to pull from. I mean, Jen would really be the one who does it, but it gives them the ability, because they have to, some of the contracts are actually signed by Jeffco. It's a little bit confusing because they hold the money.
Got it.
So it's a motion to approve HPM Contracting as a contractor and to move forward with the $1,138,581 budget or expenditure.
And the use of the 5B funds for that purpose.
And use of the 5B funds. Addendum. So am I on the hook for this because I spoke too much? I guess, is there any further discussion? I see none. So I would motion to approve HPM Contracting as the contractor for the upcoming North Campus project, and to approve the budget amount of $1,138,581 from the 5B funds. And is that it? I think that was it.
Well, Becky, we can't hear you. For some
Becky, I see
reason, or
your
maybe
lips
it's
moving,
mine.
but I don't read mime.
I unmuted the wrong device. Do we need to approve part of it as 5B and part of it is not, or is it okay to say that's the budget amount utilizing 5B funds that are available?
I think so,
Yeah,
because
'cause-
it's all the 5B funds. We want to spend all the, we have to spend all the 5B funds. We've got to get them spent. But just because the budget is more than the 5B funds, I think that's, Emily, do you think that that's sufficient to say it that way?
It seems to me like, yeah, we do have to specify that where the 5B funds are going, but I don't think we need to specify where we're going to get the remainder of the funds. Doesn't
Okay.
seem like we have to do that.
Could we present that at another board meeting to approve as well, if we decide that we do need to tap those funds at a later date?
And I was just thinking, since we know we're going to go over the 5B balance for sure for the amount you just
Yeah.
proposed, Justin, that was my worry. But if we can say this is the amount we're approving, utilizing all the 5B funds, and then what we have.
Remainder to come out of Zion's account and
Yeah.
or the reserve funds.
That sounds like we're okay.
That first motion count. And somebody second it and put this thing to bed.
Second.
Brittany Horstman,
Yes.
Switch which one you've unmuted.
you hear me?
I think you need to unmute on the other device. We can hear you better on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Irene,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Ashley,
No.
Justin,
Yes.
Becky, yes. Terry,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
and Adam is not present at this time, but the motion still passes without his vote.
Thank you. I know it's not been an easy topic, and I know there's lots of details. I think we need to keep asking questions as we go, and I will still get that document from John and Jen in terms of the cash flow, so everybody can continue to review it on an ongoing basis.
Ashley, I'm curious why you voted no. Just wanted to know if you had thoughts that you were willing to share.
Kind of hard to put in a nutshell.
I just want to speak up and say that, you know, when we vote, everybody should vote for what they think is in the best interest.
Oh, sure. I just
And
didn't
we're
know if there
not
was,
necessarily going to be unanimous all the time.
I just wanted to know if there were some concerns that, you know, we should know about, or things that you're thinking about that maybe I haven't thought about. It wasn't meant to like call you out or anything or make you feel
No.
uncomfortable. I was just curious.
No,
And just wanted to know.
It's also
There are
it's
things
very
I'm not
difficult.
seeing.
It's not it's probably not anything specific that you're not seeing, or and it is not me questioning anything that you guys have done. This goes a long way back, and it's just I have to vote my conscience, but that doesn't
Sure.
mean I don't support what my school does, but just on this.
Sure. Thanks for sharing. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Sorry, guys. Unless there's something else, I'm going to move forward to committee reports. I know we did already talk a little bit about finance, but Brittany, Jen, I'm just going to leave it up to you for that.
First, I just want to thank Justin and Jen. We had a good meeting on Monday. We were able to tick off a bunch of things that were kind of pending. Jen, thank you for your time on that. And Justin and I are both, I'm going to speak for Justin, even though we're here to support you and in that, and the committee when we get formed and we get going. And I would really like it, echo Aritz, if when we get our monthly statements that you send, if you could put that, maybe DCS will give it to us, you know, that running list of how much has gone out and how much is still to be spent and where we
Definitely.
are in the project. I think that would be really helpful, just all of us be able to get that as a monthly thing, and it just becomes something we look at every month.
Absolutely.
Jen, do you want to go over the numbers like we did last time? I think was that helpful last time, how Jen went over the numbers, pointed out line items of concern? Is that how everyone wants to go forward? Was that helpful?
I know it was time consuming, And now that we've done like one thorough walkthrough, I don't know if we have to do it in as much detail, just myself, but I do think going through everything that's a significant change would be useful.
Yeah, the areas of concern and big areas of change, I think would be good.
Okay.
Maybe every so often going through it in more detail, but I don't think we need to do that every month unless
Yeah.
there's things the finance committee wants to point out to us.
So, and I did make notes, so if you want to dive into it, I don't see anything concerning. I'm looking forward to cleaning it up and readjusting things for our January revision. But you know, our salaries and benefits are right in line, and that's our biggest expense. So if you want the details, you can go ahead and read it in the financials I provided, but everything's looking good for me. And I'm so appreciative of Brittany and Justin to finally get together and really dive into some topics, and I'm excited.
Is there anything else that either one of you wanted to add in terms of the finance committee update, or
I have one small,
go ahead?
and this is a board matter, is Jen brought up the issue of a finance policy, which we don't have that I'm aware of.
Oh.
I've never seen a finance policy. And she sent over a draft, a sample that she'd used in Douglas County, I believe. So if the board's okay with that, I think we should take a look at that and see. A financial policy can be anything of what's the limit our administrator has to spend without board approval. You know, all of these kind of things to give direction. I think as we go into searching for a new administrator, getting some of these things in place so that we can provide clear direction and a clear policy on how money is spent and who can spend it, who signs contracts, who can approve these funds. Does it have to be the principal?
How many proposals to get?
Yeah, or how many proposals to get? Do you need 3 if it's over 10,000 or whatever? So if the board's okay with that, I'd like to do some work on that, look at what Jen sent over, and maybe send some drafts and proposals to the board to review and maybe get that in place.
I like that idea. I think it would be helpful, not only for a new administrator, but as the board rotates members as well, to have something to fall back on. And it can be updated as things change in the future, but I do think that would be very helpful.
Yes, I
So I
agree.
appreciate the idea of taking that on.
Brittany, Jen, not to confuse the situation, maybe it already exists, but while we're already on it, do we have investment funds or CDs or anything sitting in our reserves? And do we have a statement, financial statement or policy for that too? Because it might be ideal to get all of that wrapped up in one financial policy. This is how we handle, you know, from administrator down to this is what we expect, you know, a growth rate on our CDs or investments and that kind of thing. And sometimes those two can be struck up by whoever's managing our funds. So it might be good to just get it all rolled up in one.
But as far as I know, Jeffco holds our funding and we have the Zion's account. That's the only 2 things I've ever seen since I've been there.
Okay.
I want to have a little petty cash box.
Yeah, my understanding is they invest it. They keep it for us and invest it, and we earn the small interest, or what, you know,
Right.
somewhat like a 401k, I guess. For a lack of a better, I'm sure there's a lot better way of explaining that, but, and that's a good point to look into. I think we should at least have that information, Justin, and look into that. I agree. That's a great idea.
Does anybody have any other questions for Brittany, Jen, or Justin on finance stuff? No? Okay. Let's move on to marketing. Becky and Justin. I did put a note, the board of directors professional pictures. Heather has the ones that were taken at the school and any that have been submitted by the board. I'm going to ask her to go ahead and post them. So if you haven't turned anything in, now would be the time to do it so we can be organized and get everything done at once. So besides that, I know that you guys met. I heard something about the idea of postcards getting possibly sent out to different zip codes or whatnot. There is marketing budget. I really liked the idea, but I'm going to let you guys share more.
Becky, you were on that last meeting. Do you want to kind of recap that, and then we can dig a little deeper into some of the marketing ideas we've been discussing?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of meetings so far this school year. The most recent meeting, what we were talking about is homeschool. And Melissa did share that she is working on doing some events in the new school once it's open with local homeschool organizations. So not just our area, but actually attracting other homeschool programs that are in place and starting to do some sharing. And I thought that that was a wonderful thing and a really great way for us to advertise and get our name out and start to use the new building. So that was wonderful. And then the other thing that we discussed is how can we try to reach, especially some of these families like the Colorado families. We didn't have a final decision yet, so we didn't make any firm recommendations as far as where we wanted to try to market, but we did think that Colorado and some of the local communities around our school would be the best place to start. And so Justin did a lot of digging, and I'll let him kind of share what he found as far as direct mailing, but that seemed to be the best way to capture a lot of those families very easily.
So, yeah, our printer actually pointed me to it's so simple, it's stupid, but it's United States Postal Service has this program where you can essentially go in and provide mailers. They have to be a certain size, which our printer actually does this all the time for his clients. And they get placed on these routes and distributed on routes that you can designate. And you can literally go onto the United States Postal Service website, dial in a zip code, an area. So I went in to the neighborhoods surrounding Colorado, and I think it came out to like $300 for the Postal Service. That covers postage, and you go in with your bundle of postcards and they distribute them. So with that knowledge, I started getting a little tactical with it and kind of looking at some of these schools that we might want to target. With Becky's help and input, we were kind of, figuring out what neighborhoods and where we could really dial this in. We might be looking at a little bit more significant expenditure for marketing, but this is kind of like strike while it's hot, which, this is the time to do it. I don't want to wait until these kids have all found new homes, and MPA was never a consideration. So ideally, we might want to look at maybe a one-time extension of the budget or increase of the budget. I don't know what that would look like yet. I'm still waiting for our printer to get me a quote on those cards and how much they'll cost per card to print. But he knows he prints the postage code on it and everything. So all we do is walk into the postal office station, hand them the stack, pay them for the delivery, and they go out on the routes. So I think it's just a good way to target those neighborhoods, because, too broad a marketing and advertising would get missed. And, focusing in on these neighborhoods with maybe a one, depending on the amount of budget we have, two times we hit them with a mailer. The other idea we were talking about was a letter to parents in those high turnover grades where we tend to lose students to other schools. And I'm sorry, I don't have the notes in front of me, but we identified where those high turnover transition periods are, and maybe having somebody, we draft kind of a template letter that maybe Dr. Gary could put his name on, and we send out as just a reminder that it's important to stay with the school, that MPA is the place to be, and kind of run through some input from maybe the staff that could give us direction on, some of the highlights, that the selling points, as you might call them, for keeping your child enrolled with MPA. And then the last one was the QR code stickers that we did to remind for open enrollment. And we were talking about targeting some dates to send the kids home with those stickers and remind parents to scan them and get everybody enrolled for the next year. So I think that was it, Becky.
Yeah, that was everything that I remember. And now that we know that Colorado, and then the other one that's in our articulation area, are fairly close to our school, is Piper, which is just right up off of, Kipling and Bellevue, essentially. If we feel comfortable as a board reaching out to those schools and trying to offer up, our assistance, I don't know if there's a person that we want to name to do that, but I think that direct marketing those schools and trying to get flyers directly in their hands, I think would be beneficial as well.
That
That
sounds
sounds
good.
like a great idea to the schools that are closing. Just send a letter like that. MPA has agreed to give them priority, just so like they know that is an option, and they're already kind of panicked. And I would see this as like, oh man, this school really has it together. They're already reaching out to us. So that's a really great idea you guys have.
I love the priority, since that came up tonight with the letter. If we're going to sign that, let's tell them your kids are
Yeah.
getting priority. I mean, not necessarily over our own kids, we're already enrolled, but new enrollment. So it's all in how you word it. So, right.
Yeah. And I don't know, Justin, what your thoughts are. I mean, if those two schools say, yes, we want you to come and we want you to advertise, maybe we don't need the broader mailing yet. Maybe we wait and target that specifically for homeschool, or try to figure out like after the initial enrollment where we still have need. Because I think we were talking about the mailing when we weren't sure about those two schools closing, but now we know for sure. And with the number of spaces we're trying to fill, I almost wonder if it's overkill if we can actually send all of those families that we know for sure need a home a letter, and then save the marketing mailing until a little bit later. I leave it to your discretion. I think it was, we were coming up with a lot of ideas just with the uncertainty of what's going to happen to those schools and the volume of kids that have been displaced.
Can
Yeah,
that
I think
be
that's
an
great
email?
discussion.
Becky and Justin, can that be an email instead of like something you have to print and spend money on? Can we just have those schools blast out an email to everybody?
I don't know where the distribution lists come from. I saw Veronica's email about getting a hold of those, but there needs to be some cooperation with the school initially. So I think email's
what I
good,
meant,
but yeah. And I, for the cost of a stamp nowadays, and if we just mail merged a letter that we sent out on MPA letterhead, I hate to say it, even in this day and age, and I fight with my board for my association all the time, but when we do membership renewal, I still send hard copy letters because it drives more membership. Everybody misses an email, spam folders catch them. Now I would not oppose doing email, physical letter, and then maybe the direct mail is a little bit more surgical in where we send that later, and maybe make it a 3-stage. Because like I said, it's a window, and it's going to be a short window that we need to strike and let them know we're here and make sure we're getting the message of MPA out to them. Because you're also not going to get 100% of them. So we want to hit as many of them as possible with our message a few times, not just once. So, yeah. But no, these are all good conversations. And Rebecca, if you'd like to join the marketing committee, you have some good ideas.
New
But
board
we're
members.
talking, this needs to happen now. There needs to be I mean, not tonight, but in the next week or so, because December is enrollment, right? So we want to get it out. Ideally, it would get out right after we get back from Thanksgiving break or something like that, right? So,
Yeah.
and then coordinate with Veronica to make sure she knows she's going to get maybe lots of phone calls in that week.
Yeah. Well, and I'd love to call the schools as early as tomorrow and just say, who can we talk to? We'd like to open our communication between our schools. I mean, I don't think that should wait, but we could start working on the draft of the communication, Justin, for those schools specifically, I would say, and start to put that together. Because I do think that is on a time frame, and that's probably inexpensive if we can email it. And then even if we have to follow it up with a paper mail, it wouldn't be that much. Is that what we're thinking? And then phase 3 would be if we don't get the numbers or we feel like we're not getting a lot of interest in round 1, then maybe we hit everybody with the postcards that we think would help for round 2.
Yeah, I think I like that order. Something along those lines of email, then a physical letter, and then maybe a direct mail as cleanup. And at least you've touched them 3 times with some form of marketing. But it starts with getting those lists for parents and making sure we get email and physical home addresses. And I'm just not sure what that process looks like and how easy it is to collect that.
Yeah, I'll be curious to.
Just a database, essentially. Yeah.
And I was just gonna add, especially for people who are newer on the board, marketing committee does have a budget that they can use, and we don't have to go through like voting and approval and whatnot. So that's already
3,000
in the budget and hasn't been used at all.
Yeah, 3,000 is the amount that's in the budget and 0% have been used, so
Just wanted to.
I'm
point that out.
comfortable with the I'm comfortable with the ideas you presented, and
We
I
need
have no
triple
need
that.
I have no need for you guys to, me personally, to come back to the board for, is it 400 or 500? You know,
Yeah,
I
no.
don't
Yeah.
need
Just
that.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll stay within our budget. If we need to go beyond that, then we would present it to the board. So
Sounds good.
And then if we do determine that we want to do, I know we have one tour that we do each month. And I guess maybe it's a question for Dr. Gary, but can we approach
So
Gary and the
I'm
team
gonna-
about doing that?
So I can tell you that Beth is the one that is giving the tour. So I would
Okay.
put her in the conversation because it would be time spent for her. Not
It
saying
would be
she wouldn't
Beth.
be a part of that conversation, but she is the one that's currently giving them.
Okay, I just wanted to know who we would coordinate back with if we need, an additional time for these schools to allow parents to come in. So,
Gary, Veronica, and Beth, I think. Is that fair, Gary?
That's fair. Yes.
okay, great.
One thing I might add, I would have no problem calling the principals at both schools. Actually, I was principal at Pfeiffer for 10 years. I still know a few of the people there, not the principal. Colorado, my goodness. I would, it's interesting that the district came out with a proposed resolution for the charter boards, because basically what I could see happening is, I think Pfeiffer's going to Kendallview. I'm not sure where Colorado's going, is that those schools will want to retain as many kids as they can so they can keep the staff that's moving along with them. So it does become a little competitive in terms of maintaining enrollment. But I will certainly give the two principals a call and just say, hey, check with your community superintendent if you'd be open to share a distribution list or send out one to your community specific to, if they have any interest in Montessori program, to contact us. Again, if we use the school, we have to have their approval in the first place, but they don't have to approve sending out postcards.
right.
Gary,
Right.
Gary, if
That's
you're
great.
willing to open the line of communication with your relationships, I mean, Justin, I feel
We
like
would- Yes.
that would be wonderful.
Anything to expedite it, because like we said, we
Yeah.
are working in a pretty short window here. So the sooner we have those lists, the sooner we can, start putting together merges and letters and that kind of thing. So
I'll ask them. I'll give them a call tomorrow or the next day and see what they have to
Thank
say. They probably would have to say, well, I have to talk further up the chain to find out if that's something I can
sure.
or give, but I'll find out.
Yeah, that's just my concern, is the delay between our request and them running it up the line, or dragging feet, because maybe, like you said, they want to salvage those kids for their own schools. So that's,
Well, our feet won't drag. Theirs might.
no, not ours. That's what I'm saying. There's we've got those cartoon feet that run in place.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks, guys. That all sounds good. I'll just let you guys move forward with that. Moving on, SAC committee. Emily, I don't even know if you guys have met. I'm just gonna let you.
No, and we postponed the meeting. We were going to meet later this month, just to have a check-in, nothing really immediate on the agenda. But now we've moved that meeting back, probably won't meet again until, I guess we're looking to schedule that for January. So nothing to report. We'll meet in January and have something
That
to
makes
report
sense
after that.
because you don't have any
Yep.
data to look at.
Yeah, and just with all the changes going on in the school, we figured other priorities probably rise to the top. So
Thank you. Grievance committee, Justin and me, we still need to work on the grievance policy. As everybody knows, there's been a lot on the plate for the board, from middle school stuff and North Building to all the changes we've been through. So we need to kind of get moving on that. But I also just need to remind everybody that according to our grievance policy, it's 2 board members and we rotate every 6 months. So people stay on there for a full year. And I was gonna let Justin drop off in December, and I need another board member to step
You've had
up. and-
4 committee reports and I've been on 3 of them.
Yes. So I'm gonna let you drop off, and then I need somebody to step in, and we are on the grievance committee for 1 year, and it's a rotating basis. So I will drop off in June and somebody will take my spot. So I'm gonna need somebody to step up who can be there for a full year, eliminating Becky and Brittany off the top. So if people need to think about it, let me know, but I definitely need a name person who's gonna do that starting December 1st, if possible. And then middle school committee update is we have been working on getting a better understanding of the type of curriculum that we want. Numbers in terms of how many students, as well as what that means for staffing. And there are some connections that are being utilized to try and figure out if there's appropriate staff that are interested. There are some possibilities out there. And then trying to figure out, there's a school that Melissa has a connection with that has some furniture. Some of the smaller items would go to the homeschool classrooms, and the larger items would go to the middle school. So just really starting to move forward in making all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. Then we meet again on the 29th at 3:30 at the North Building. It's a Tuesday. So we're going to give the folks on the committee a tour of the building, having people have a better understanding of what's going to go where. And then we can continue to talk about curriculum development and moving forward. The idea is to possibly bring in a consultant second semester for development of curriculum now that the construction is going to move forward. And we're going to be a go for December enrollment, that we can look towards picking somebody to hire and have them involved with a consultant so that they're not coming in after the consultant, and it's a more smooth kind of building of a program. So that's where we're at with that.
What time on the 29th?
3:30. And then the last committee, we need to form an administrator search committee. So we can have up to 2 board members officially on that committee. Obviously, when we get to the point of interviews, the whole board will be doing some of those interviews. I'd like the committee to do some interviews. We'll have to pull in staff to do pieces of that, maybe people from different levels. So I don't have the whole process down the road, but we do need to figure out the formation of the committee and start getting going with that process. I don't know if there's somebody who is super interested in being a part of that as the 2 board members, but Adam has shared his interest. I know he's not here right now. He had to drop off, but he is one person. So I just wanted to open that up.
Last time I thought we had talked about Jack needing to be on the committee because of the contracts and things that had to be done. I don't know if that is still the case, or if we can just come to you after and make a recommendation and have you engage at that point.
Go ahead, Brittany.
I wasn't on the committee this last time, but I was on the committee the time before that. And there was a little bit different. This last go around was a little bit different of a process, but I still have all those forms and everything. I don't think nobody on the committee has to sign anything before it goes to the full board. So I don't think there's any need for anybody with signing authority to serve on that search committee. I'm happy to serve on that committee. I didn't do it, like I said, I didn't do it last time, but I have all those forms. I'm happy to pass on those forms. When we did it, when I was part of the committee, we developed questions so that it was consistent from candidate to candidate. There was a scoring process, and those documents were kept so that it wasn't kind of apples to apples or very subjective. It was a little bit more of a comparison, equal comparison among candidates. And there was a confidentiality pledge for that initial part of the process. And so there was a forms, like those are the kind of forms that we used for that And I think Gary helped develop some of those forms because he was there at that time. So he has shared a lot of forms that he had used through prior searches and those sorts of things. So I'm happy to help with that. I'm happy to pass it on to whoever, if there's someone else that's really interested as well.
So I will be honest, I'm interested in being a part of it, but I'm worried that my plate is too full right now. So I definitely want to be a part of some of those interviews, and the whole board needs to be anyway. But Brittany, if you're open to starting out with Adam and kind of seeing what's needed, or, you know, if you feel like you need to step back and middle school stuff kind of calms down a little bit for me, then we could always switch out if we needed to. But if you're okay with that, if other people are okay with that as a starting point, we'll just kind of appoint the two of you to start.
Okay, great. And well, let's hear what other board members have to say, but also the board always gets the opportunity to at least once, if not more, meet the candidate and have everybody has an opportunity. It would make me really nervous if I was voting on somebody but never had a chance to actually speak with them. So everybody on the board, yeah.
Gonna say not only through Zoom, but I really want to meet them in person. And I'm gonna sort of ask that become a requirement of some of the interviews be in person. I think it changes the dynamics.
If I remember, Brittany, didn't we even record those initial interviews? And if people wanted to listen on, they could get to a link.
You're right. Good memory. Yes, we did. And because some of the people in the committee that were staff members, some people weren't able to attend 1 or 2 meetings. And so, yeah, we did. We recorded them, and then the board was able to even listen to them and
At a later time, yeah.
at a later time, which I thought was a really helpful, and just for people that aren't in the room.
Okay. Why don't we start with that? Let us know what you need. We definitely need to reach out to the community and ask if there's parents that are interested. So we need a communication to go out about that. And then we need to reach out to the staff, or Gary, if you think it'd be better for it to go through roundtable to the staff to ask who's interested. We could do it, you know, a multitude of different ways, but definitely want some staff to be a part of the process.
Okay, there's a roundtable this Thursday, so could bring
Okay.
that topic up.
Okay, sounds good.
How
If
about
it's
oh, sorry, Mike. How about I talk with Gary and Beth, get whatever the roundtable says, and then put together a plan of action for the board to look at. And then everybody can say if they think that that's a good, you know, the committee will be so many people and this is what our process will be. And then you guys can see if you think that that's a good plan. And if it is, then we can roll it out.
Sounds good.
Can we just include in our board top 5 to have interested parents reach out, Brittany, or do you want to manage that through a separate communication?
Whatever you guys think. I think it's great to just drum up interest. You know, we have to keep the committee, it can't be 20 people. Normally it was 2 parents, 2 board members, and a person from every level of the staff and every specials, you know, primary, lower L. So you get to about, I think it was like 9 people or something. Around that gets to be, I think, as large as you can get it without being too unwieldy. So
Brittany, what I did for Jack last time, if it is of any use, was I helped tap that for them, went and offered like, hey, out of you leads, is there somebody here? Hey, 3 specials, is there somebody here? It was very well received by the groups I went around to. And then those groups just said, okay, well, so-and-so will go. And then some people just sort of rotated as needed. It was however you would like it done, and I will not insert myself. It was really well received when I went and kind of let groups know, hey, we would like a voice from this group here. Hey, we would like a voice from this group here. If I can be of help in that area, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that again.
yeah, and I think that's great. Maybe you can talk at the at the round table about that on Thursday and see how that,
I'm not on roundtable anymore.
oh, sorry, I didn't know that you weren't on the round table. Okay, I assumed you would bring it up because you were at the round table. So yeah, absolutely. So why
Touch
don't we,
base with Gary and then you guys can figure out how to disseminate that through the staff. As kind of as a team within the building,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, because the intent is absolutely to have somebody from every level represented,
Yes.
you know. And then last time we just had parents submit their name, we put them in a hat and we drew 2 names out of a hat. That's how we did it.
I think in the top 5, we say that we form the committee, that we have 2 board members. We have a couple spots for parents and to submit your name if you have interest in working on the process. We'll see what happens. Okay, that feels good that we're going to move forward. Monthly meeting attendance and updates. Is there anything staff-wise, Ashley? Oh, you just muted yourself.
Oop. Hit it twice. We were kind of in the middle of the survey and I don't have any updated data from that. So I don't really have anything new to present that. Anyway, you know, that got changed. So I don't really have any updates on that.
Okay. Becky, PTA stuff.
I was not able to attend their meeting last Tuesday. So I've reached out to Amanda to just connect and see. I know the start of the playground committee is happening. And so I want to make sure we're coordinating with them with the middle school. I know there was also a very large, surplus from Dewey's Dash, which is great. And so they were trying to figure out how to utilize those funds. So I'll share a summary with the board next month of, this month's meeting and next month's meeting and kind of bring it all together. But it continues to be a big effort and big contribution to the school. So just thank you to all the parents and all of the staff that are taking part in that each month.
Sounds good. Adam is JCSC. I don't know that they've met yet. I know they did the survey trying to figure out what nights and places, but I don't think there's anything new.
No, nothing scheduled yet.
Okay, sounds good. Board calendar stuff, Justin. Normally we connect ahead of time. We did not.
Yeah, there were some things. Jen, you're still on the call, so maybe you can help me wrap a couple things up. We had the let's see here, and Brittany too. These are under financial treasurer, but compare final FTE count and budget for district compliance. That was in October, pending with a November target.
So I just at the end of last week, Veronica handed me a form from the district and it said unofficial student count. And I said, okay, great. When do I get the official one? And she sent an email to somebody today and hadn't heard back. I also reached out to Tom to confirm our PPR number and when that final count comes out. And I caught him late in the day. I didn't know who to call because my district accountant is out on medical leave right now. So it all happens around now as far as in other districts. So I'm assuming that it sounds like they'd withhold the information from us.
Okay. Maybe we can just touch base again on that in a week or after Thanksgiving, something like that.
Oh yeah, as soon as I get the numbers, I'll email the board.
Okay. And then send quarterly financials to PNC Bank. Brittany, you said you were gonna ping Jen on that one.
Yeah, that was a question about whether our new revised contract that we didn't take out the additional funds actually requires us. I didn't see anywhere that we're actually required to do it, but I also don't see any harm in us doing it. And so my 2 cents was to just send it and PNC will tell us if they don't want it.
Okay.
I do have somebody asking for my final audit, but I don't have that yet. So
It's weird that we don't, it's not weird. Usually, no, the independent auditor that does our, we usually have that in October. We're usually reviewing it as a board in October. But I think you had a couple questions and they got back to you, Jen, on that. Didn't they send you didn't I see a follow-up communication?
Yeah, it's there. I have the draft. I need to do an MD&A and I don't know who has done that in the past? Was it Amy?
Yeah,
John?
it was completely between the auditor and Amy that did all of that.
Okay, I had Cutler send me a draft or a
Okay,
template, so I'll dive into that. I had payroll this week, so I can move on to that.
and Cutler is the
Jen?
auditing firm we use, just for everybody.
John Cutler and Associates.
So Jen, will you tell me when you send the quarterly financials to PNC, and I'll just note that is done on that date.
Yes.
And then for November, those were
You know who
October
I
items,
send
by the
them
way.
to at PNC?
Who did we meet with? What's the contact person that we met with? The manager?
Oh, okay, I
Send it
know,
to-
it's Matthew or something.
Matt, yes, send it to them, please.
Okay,
Jen, if it helps, I can email these to you too, with just
Please do.
reminders. You got it. And then November, we had a couple of items due December 1st is the submit year-end audit to Zion's Bank and PNC, or write letter to Zion's Bank with explanation.
that'll be done.
Okay. And then also in November item, submit reserve fund balance letter to Zion's Bank.
Okay, I'll try and find last year's and do one for this year. Can you put all that in an email, please?
Yeah, I'll stick that in the email, send it your way. And then I think there's the strategic plan progress, but Reed, I know we've been, strategic plan is just getting to the next meeting, completing what we did on this one. So, but I think that should do it. I'll look through the December items, and anything that seems like it needs attention, I can send it to whoever is on the list for responsible for it. And we could bring it up. Do we have a December meeting? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
So we
third
can bring
Tuesday
it
of
up.
December. I don't remember the
Third
date
Tuesday.
off the top of my head.
Third Tuesday of December would be the 20th.
There we go. And it's virtual. If there isn't anything else, the next item on the agenda is approved consent agenda, and I did not send them out, unfortunately. I don't know if anybody accessed the board documents. There are 2 sets in there, or we can move it to the next meeting. I'm gonna
I
leave
read
that.
Yeah, that's totally on me. I have the 26th and the 9th out there, but I did not get a chance to finalize the 18th. And so I don't know. I know Jen typically needs that one, the monthly meetings sooner. The other 2 were shorter meetings. So I think Jen would just have to confirm if that can wait till next month, or if we have to do something.
I don't know when
separate.
they have to get sent out by you, Jen, to the district, so.
What are we talking about?
The approved minutes that are signed. Are we okay to wait till December to do that, or do you need that sooner?
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, with that, I just want to say thank you for everybody. I know we've had additional meetings over the past couple of months. And thank you for everything that everybody has done to contribute to the board. Thank you to the staff as we kind of work through a transition. Thank you to Gary for joining us and staying with us tonight. I know there's a lot going on. Everybody take care of yourselves. There's a lot of stuff going around the school. Take care of your kids and have a good Thanksgiving break that's coming up, both to the folks in front of me as part of the board and to all the staff as well. Take the time, take care of yourself, be thankful for what we have.
Thank you, I will.
Thank you.
And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And we're good.
Second.
Thanks,
Have a great
everybody. Have a
Thanksgiving,
good night.
everybody. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving. Have a good night.
Happy
Good night.
Thanksgiving. Why didn't I have my key?